So welcome back to our third episode of these pasture walks, and we're at the Coastal Plant Experiment Station again in Newton. And right now we're looking at a summer annual plant date trial. And so just to begin, summer annuals, those are our millets. In this trial we have a pearl millet. That's your sorghum Sudan grasses, your Sudan grasses. Those are usually our main species that we talk about as far as summer annuals. Crabgrass is another one. There's some bracharia grass varieties, but the three that we're going to discuss today are pearl millet, a Bmr sorghum, and a sorghum Sudan grass, and then also a Sudan grass. But just to kind of give you a little bit of a background behind this trial, this is a plant date trial, and so our first plant date, which is on the far east side of this trial, was April 1st, and then we planted every 15 days all the way through July 15th. So April 1st, April 15th, May 1st, May 15th, all the way to July 15th. And we're measuring yield and quality on those three summer annuals with multiple harvests. And we also have 3 nitrogen treatments where we have a control, we're not applying any nitrogen. We have a 25 unit treatment, which means we're applying 25 units per harvest, and then we have a 50 unit treatment where we're applying 50 units of nitrogen at each harvest. And you can see a little bit of color differences in these 3 rows right here, which kind of relates back to that nitrogen application. But you know, from just a why type question, why would we be interested in summer annuals? Why are we interested in plant dates? And so, you know, with all the effects of COVID-19, a lot of producers were wanting to keep animals, maybe yearling calves or weight gain calves, a little bit longer in the spring, just because prices were a little bit lower, and we're wanting to plant something following that ryegrass that'll allow them to continue weight gain on through those summer months. And really in the south, it's really difficult to continue that weight gain just because of the heat, insect disease pressure. But from a variety or species selection, summer annuals are really about those only species that we can get quantifiable or significant weight gain from a forage standpoint during that stressful time of year. And so that's why we have these 3 species: the millet, the Bmr sorghum, and a sorghum Sudan grass hybrid. In terms of plant dates, you know, one of the main issues that we have in a lot of our summer annual production is aphid damage. And when it comes to grazing crops, insecticides are really out of the question. And so it kind of falls back to cultural practices. What can we do to plant these summer annuals and try to give us the best advantage against some of our sugarcane aphid damage? And that's really plant date. And so we looked at earlier planting dates to hopefully kind of get out front of these summer annuals, or get out front of the sugarcane aphids, to kind of give them a little bit more of a head start before the aphid damage began to really increase. And really this year, I don't know if it's due to rainfall or some type of patterns that we have with our insects, but right now we just really haven't experienced a whole lot of aphid damage in any of our plant dates. So that's been great from a production standpoint. But usually with our summer annuals, when you think about plant dates, usually our target is sometime in the month of May. But we instituted some earlier plant dates in hopes of maybe trying to get these crops established and on up a little bit faster, so our cattle can not have such a fall off period between ryegrass and when they would begin to graze these summer annuals. But the unfortunate thing behind these summer annuals is oftentimes germination temperatures require those 60 to 65 degree nights for them to begin to germinate and come on up. And this past spring we had such a cool mild spring where it kind of delayed some of our summer annual production, our earlier plant dates, and really on into June is when we started to really see some rapid growth, rapid establishment, and above ground growth. And so this year we had a perfect spring, which was great from a cool season standpoint, but from a warm season, whether it's summer annuals or perennials, they were a little bit slower than they usually are. But from a grazing management perspective, Usually we recommend grazing any of these species when they reach anywhere from 18 to 24 inches. So this is well beyond the height we would recommend grazing it, because once they start getting into this height, it's really hard to keep up with them unless you put a significant amount of head on there to grazing or increase your stocking rates. Because once we pass that July 15th date, a lot of these species, they immediately want to put on a seed head. And so, as we all know, once grasses start putting on seed heads, quality declines, yield declines, and so we want to capitalize on that before our quality begins to decrease. If we walk a little bit further over, this is the Tip Leaf 3. This is our Bmr Sorghum variety. You can see the brown midrib right there, that Bmr trait that's in here. We also have the Sudan grass, which is a little bit taller, right there behind it. So you can see the growth habits. Tip leaf has a good bit more tillering. There's a lot more leaves from a growth standpoint, whereas our sorghum and our sorghum Sudan grasses have they're a little bit I guess stalkier, a good way to put it. There's more growth in the stalks. You can snap one of those off and you can see the thickness and the sugary coating of that stalk, whereas your tip leaf is a little bit narrower stem, and more of its growth is in that leaf structure. In terms of quality, these are all good in protein, usually in that 15% range, but where you really benefit from these summer annuals is the sugar concentrations that are in these. It has a little bit higher energy, a little bit more digestibility compared to a perennial warm season like Bahia grass and Bermuda grass. And so when we think about increasing gains, oftentimes we can capitalize on the protein, but we really need that energy to help meet that energy demand for those livestock during this time of year. And so these summer annuals kind of help us do that. So from a grass finish perspective, or if you're just trying to add a little bit more weight gain on those yearling calves, summer annuals are a great way to increase that, provide that forage quality without having to spend money on supplementation to meet that energy demand. Bmr, if you're not familiar, Bmr stands for brown midrib. That's basically a genetic mutation that was discovered and basically has been utilized in sorghum variety breeding programs, and of course with pearl millets they've increased the number of varieties that have that Bmr trait. And basically what that trait is doing is it's increasing the digestibility, because the lignin concentration in that Bmr is actually lower, so you're increasing digestibility, but the plant structure, instead of being more of a rigid plant leaf like in like corn that doesn't have a Bmr trait, the leaf or the coming out of the sheath tends to be a little bit more erect, whereas with that Bmr trait it tends to fold over a little bit more, doesn't have as rigid a structure, and that increases the quality of those Bmr varieties. So that's just one other characteristic in terms of picking out a variety. If you want that increase in quality, pick out a Bmr variety that'll help increase your digestibility.